So who are you thinking of when you're pitching?
I don't know, someone from Chicago like Dr. Cohen or Dr. Houghton or whatever, big mTOR study guys.
So research interest.
Yeah.
And so hypothetically, since you brought up Chicago, hypothetically, you're at a meeting in Chicago and you run into one of these people in a lobby or something. Is that what you see them standing?
Maybe not necessarily elevator, yeah, because my pitch is too I realized it's too long for elevator, but I didn't want to change it too much. So, hello, my name is Alex Akshiyan. I'm a research assistant professor at the LSU Health Sciences Center. I'm the lead scientist at Dr. Shireen Nason's lab. I'm working on the research related to head and neck translational studies, including the study on the role of curcumin in preventing progression of head and neck and skin cancer, and also the study on the role of HPV in head and neck cancer. But the main project that I'm working on, and that is of interest to you, is the mTOR-targeted anti-cancer therapy. As you know, mTOR inhibitors are very promising anti-cancer drugs that are in phase 2 clinical trials. And although their anti-angiogenic and anti-lymphogenic properties have been known for a few years, still the main focus of current research is their direct effects against tumor cells. I have the data demonstrating that these drugs actually preferentially targeting tumor microenvironment, and we identified several biomarkers of the drug's antivascular effects. So I have a great interest and expertise in further studying these antivascular effects of mTOR inhibitors. I've been involved in the writing of several NIH grant applications, two of which were funded, and I have good understanding how clinical trials are conducted, and also I'm familiar with laboratory supervisor duties, including training of personnel, students and residents, and fiscal management. So I'd like to present further details of my proposal, if you don't mind. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, my first comment would be, for me, that's too long. Secondly, I don't actually know why you're talking to me. Is it because you wanted a job, or what was the... So you've lost me, first of all. So you need to be specific, because I might not be looking for anyone. If you want to talk to me, for example, for my lab. So I think it needs to be more concise, and then let me say, so what do you do? You know, have you got experience with this? If I was looking for something. I think the important thing is to introduce who you are, perhaps some aspect of why you're talking to me, what interests you, and then say, can we meet to discuss if you're in a hurry or whatever. I think it was just too long, so you've lost me from there.
You know, I agree. It was a little long. You didn't make it clear why you were talking to me. And one of the things I think for all of us here who, because we're all doing pitches, I haven't stopped doing this, they may interrupt you. So the two talks I heard were pro. I mean, they were rehearsed. But what's going to happen, the very first thing you say, hey, Sherry Ann Nathan, let me tell you about that party we had with Sherry Ann Nathan. Are you going to be able to get back on track by the way? So it's good to rehearse these things, but again, you have to be flexible. I think the key thing you want in any interaction is to generate points downstream that you can interact further. So it can be short and sweet. You can say, you know Dr. Nathan, I work with her, I'm very interested in mTOR, I have some really interesting ideas, and I would love if you have some time at the meeting, or if I can contact you further by email or phone, if we can talk about it. It's the key thing is make a contact that becomes stabilized. You don't have to, I'm not going to say, well, where's the contract I need to sign you right now to get you aboard. So the key thing is to have someone interested enough they're going to respond to you. And then follow. Follow-up is the key.
Got it. Too much details.
That was a little bit, I thought, a little
too long. But I thought the idea of saying somebody's name that's an interaction that the person would know, I think is good, because automatically it's like, oh, okay, so that's
now you have a connection.
Yeah, and I think that's important. So you don't want to be sort of name dropping per se, but if there's a genuine connection there, I think that's, if I was looking for something, I'd think, oh yeah, so you know Neil, for example, oh okay, that's who you work with, you know, that's very helpful, because that's the sort of thing I remember. And then if you make a contact with them and say, perhaps I can email you, you can put an email, I'm the person who works with.
And that's a very good point, because when you subsequently follow up, and you probably will, you have to have something distinguishing you from the 10,000 other people they met at the meeting. So if you simply say, remember me, I was in the elevator, going to go, you know, the guy was stalking you all day, remember me? Instead say, hey, remember I brought up Jerry and Nathan, remember, so drop some key things that you can refer back to when you, so that triggers what you had said, and you're going to flesh it all out later. So you don't, you know, if it gets long, really, people are going to be
And for you, Alex, you were pitching to someone who's in the field of mTOR. So you don't have to reiterate what's already known in the literature. That wasted a lot of time and detracted from you. Like completely detracted from you and your focus.
Yeah, you're not, you came across more as I'm selling mTOR as an interesting area, as opposed to, hey, I'm one of the top guys in mTOR right now, you know, maybe we should talk. So I agree with that. This guy's going to be well aware of what clinical trials are out there and how far things have advanced.
And much like the others, by the end of it, I had no idea were you looking for a faculty position or a position in his lab.
Or a date.
As a lab manager.
I didn't know.
So you needed to pitch that better.
Okay. I mean, it was good. Both of these were
But
good.
you've got a lot of, you know, you had some specifics that were good in there, especially given the person we're trying to reach.
That's it?
Time to get off the hot seat.
Who else is going? You going, right?
Yes, you promised. Go ahead.
What am I doing?
Nothing. Tell us about how you shoot pool.
Horribly.
No, I saw you.
Except when it counts.
So, go ahead.
Well, actually, so this is sort of like, well, you know what the setup is supposed to be. You're supposed to run into someone that you wanted to talk to, and there they are suddenly, and you're going to give them a pitch. So you're not really pitching to the audience. The elevator would really be crowded. So you're pitching to anyone you want, but you know, now's your chance. You got 30 seconds. You know, I don't know you from, but we don't know you from anybody picks
You want to work at Dr. Gavins' lab
Yes.
as a postdoc.
Seriously, who does?
So,
I'll do a pitch then. So anyway,
hi, I'm Casey Jackson, and I work in a gene transfer lab for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and other neurodegenerative diseases. I've seen a lot of your work in environmental exposure leading to neurodegenerative diseases, and I'm very interested in looking into some of that. So I'd be interested in getting in contact with you further to see more about what your research is focusing on and how I can be a part of it.
Okay.
Sure, no?
I like that. I think you came across as nervous, which is fine, but equally,
Because that means she's important. If you come across as nervous, that makes that person. And you did another important thing. You said you're aware of her research, so you personalize it, which is good.
environment.
Sorry.
How you got it wrong, isn't it?
But you came across as, as I say, as nervous, which is fine. But you also, it was short, and the interaction saying that perhaps, you know, I can email you or contact you, but I thought was ideal. And that for me would be, yes, of course, here's my card, do get in contact. And that's it.
I would throw in when you hope to graduate and that you're looking for a postdoc.
Yeah. So you hit some key things that the other speakers, as well prepared as they were, you hit things that are important. You personalized it. I'm interested in your research, and the one thing you did leave out is it's important to say, I'm looking for a postdoctoral position, I'm looking for an instructor position. Because you may, and this has happened, people have come up to me and it's like, oh, man, this is great timing, let's go to lunch because I'm looking for a postdoc. And then it moves from there. So little trigger things like that. But you gave enough information. I think that was probably, that's a good pitch.
Because you also leave it open to the person you're contacting or you want to work for or whatever. For me, you leave it open for me to say, let's talk further. I'm just going for coffee. Let's go home coffee.
And again, that's where, so this is where reading faces and personality is important. So you have to be prepared for the person to say, look, I have no positions or whatever, just blowing you off. Or just have them hesitate and ask you some questions, and then sense if they have some, do you have some time right now? Can we talk a little bit more right now? And they may say no, but you know what? I do have time this afternoon. So you want to be tactfully aggressive. So, you know, you don't want to like tackle people and say, you will listen to me, but you don't want to be, but your shyness was a good part.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be so like, well, I'm really sorry, I'm embarrassed I talked to you. So you want to be, because again, the people who are leaders in the field are looking for people that can become leaders in the field. And so they're looking for people that are not hesitant to come up and talk and present their ideas. So I thought that was, are we ranking these like?
No, if you want, you can to embarrass us more.
They were all very good so far, but in different ways, and you know, an amalgam of all three would have, you know, because you got to give a pitch at the end, the perfect one. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
I think this was a very good one, very to the point, and it was more natural than mine, for instance. You know, in the way it was told, it was kind of, I would expect from someone running into a person in the hallway of a conference, you know.
Because again, I think that's going to be the more likely possibility. You're in a meeting, and unless you really targeted, I mean that in a good way, unless you targeted a person to come up to at the meeting, you're really not going to know. You're talking to your friends, you're giggling, your boyfriend just dumped you, something, you're on the elevator, and there's a person you want to talk to. I got to improvise, right? You're not going to have this prepared speech. Just let me check my notes, okay? So I think the prepared stuff is fine, especially if you know someone at a meeting and you're going to talk to them. But just be, you know, I mean, that spiel would work, you know, on any number of people.
I had this experience when I actually almost tackled a person out of his recent, he just gave a talk. And I was waiting outside the doors, and I had about 5 meters because he was rushing somewhere. I had 5 meters to talk to him. And, you know, gave him the card, said, yes, absolutely, yeah, go ahead,
You just hit another important point. How many people in this room have business cards?
I do.
Get some. What you didn't. I mean, get some when you're ready to start looking, but that's I think, an important thing to have. Just and contact information. Not that they'll look at it, but it's another. Wow, this person really is serious. They gave me a card, or ask for their card, or contact information. So.
And if on the back of that card is something very specific, you might want to write down a couple of little details, you know, like your interests or whatever. Sorry, from looking for you know, a key technique or whatever on the back of it.
Well, that's good. So, the only bad thing was you were late.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody who's next?
Hudson.
Hi, it's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Prashant from LSU Health Industry Report, and I'm currently working on the supplementation of the micronutrient supplementation on insulin signaling cascade of good metabolism, and I'm going to complete my 3rd year of postdoctoral research, and I'm right now looking for some faculty position. And I like your research, and I have seen a couple of papers, and it's really in my field, so I'd be happy to send you my resume if you have some position in the department. That would be grateful for me. And if you have not currently position, if you can refer some other institute so that I can contact with them, that would be also fine. And lastly, I would happy that if you can be the advisor or you can recommend me for someone so that would be good for me.
Fine, you've got the points in, I guess, but for me, it would be very much, it would be better if you said, can I contact you? Or can I email you?
Yes.
And then say what you're looking for, because it sounded to me as though I'm interested in your research, but actually, if you don't have a position, can you actually do the work and recommend me to someone else? And you were asking a lot from me when I don't know you. And that's not necessarily saying I wouldn't do it, it's just simply...
But that was, that's
A lot of
exactly
people
right.
wouldn't find it.
But if you could always contact me and then start looking at it.
Yeah, so that person, once you contacted them, would say, look, I'm really, I'm filled up, or I don't have the money to hire anybody else. And then, if you're on the phone with them, you can say, well, do you have anybody in mind and at that point it's appropriate. But yeah, for a pitch, because they're not going to say, well, let me get a book out and write down the names.
Okay, so I would ask the contact information from him.
I think that for me, the key thing of a pitch is because it's not a yes or no decision. The key thing of a pitch is to come across as interesting, intelligent, and leave a little gem in their memory so that when you contact them again, as you will, they'll remember you. It's simply opening a line of communication. The goal of a pitch for me is that I've now established a relationship with someone. So they're not going to make, you don't have to have everything in one thing, like, and by the way, what do you think my salary would be if you hired me? It's opening lines of communication and trying to, if you're a leader, lots of people are going to talk. So you want to separate, without doing something crazy, you want to separate yourself from the rest of the pack. And so, you need to be a little more, you came across as a little timid. And I'm not saying that's bad, because there's enough egos in the world that we don't need, more blustery people. But be a little more, I think, upfront with what you're saying. Because sometimes people, unfortunately, interpret that as apologetic. I'm really sorry I wasted your time, and I'm here, and I'm just a slug, but I'm going to go through this anyway. So be more positive. It's the same thing when you write a grant. Words can actually speak to action. So a lot of people don't get grants because when they write it, they're excited about it. It doesn't come across that way. It's like, man, if you're this bored with this stuff, why would I do it? So come across as a little more, and not happy, I don't like things like that, but just more, what's the word I'm looking for? The English is so reserved, I don't know.
More positive.
Yeah,
Positive.
Enthusiastic. I think also don't, if you want to work, so for example, if you were coming to me and you wanted to work in my lab, then I want that to come, again, it goes back to enthusiasm, I want that to come across, but it came across certainly towards the end as though you expected me to be a headhunter for you and find you a job. So if you want to work for me, that's fine. If you want me to look for a job elsewhere, no, I'm not interested in that. But there's no reason why you could say, I'll contact you, whatever, and then let me say, well, I don't have a job, and read through your resume and all that sort of thing, and then say, but actually, I could recommend you to such and such a person, or I think so-and-so is looking for something.
That's where a positive impression comes.
Yeah.
Is important.
And the last two speakers, you did three things. We're all human. We all like having our ego stroked. So you don't want to be, a BS person per se. But you want to say, I read your paper. And really, I read your recent paper. I thought it was very interesting. We found something. It's a very, very neat study, whatever. And then people suddenly say, yeah, I am pretty good. And then they're listening because you're stroking them.
But do make sure you have read the paper.
Because they may say, how did you like figure 3? I thought I only had 2 figures. You don't. But you can be genuine and complimentary at the same time. So it's just human nature. When somebody starts a conversation with, I've read your work, or I think your stuff is very interesting, then it's like, because it's all noise around you most of the day. So.
And if you've targeted someone that you know that they have a good core in their department, that there's like a strength, research strength in their department, try and tailor to how could I add to that, rather than just this single little person that's on their own working away on their little niche. If don't forget that there may be a whole group in that department, and you may want to sell how you might add to that.
Good. Who else was coming?
Apparently.
Apparently.
Do you want to make it really fluid? We'll do a lift one.
An actual lift one? Do you have to be...
So I'm Paladin's boss, so I'm quite used to me doing this sort of.
Do it with the
Okay, so I'm going to be in the lift.
Who are you? Are you?
You can be me.
So you can come in is that the elevator?
Just a minute.
What kind of job am I applying for? So maybe me or when?
Just be
It's gonna be like Monty Python.
You don't work. Okay? So, elevator, so we're going. Elevator. Ding!
Oh, hello, I'm Helen Smith. Really nice to meet you. I currently work in Dr. Gavins' lab. Another Dr. Gavins at LSU Health on stroke and inflammation. I'll be looking for another job in about a year or so, and I'm actually looking for external funding at the moment, and I'm looking for a host institution. I actually like your...
Sorry, just hang on. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be there in a moment. Yes, I'll be there in a moment. Okay, thanks. Bye.
Hey, so anyway, I absolutely love your work. Here's my card, and if it's possible for me to send you an email at any time, it would be very grateful.
Super.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Nice to meet you all.
That was a fun one, I think. And that was probably the most, and I like that, so I would suggest, because I don't know if you're planning on this again, but that's the way this should go. I think it really should be a mini play in a way, in that person is talking to someone and you do exactly what you might do, where you're answering the phone or. No, I think that's because now the pitch is to a group, and that's not going to happen. So I like that. So maybe in the future, when you continue this type of thing, it should be pick a person to talk to and then do that stuff, and then
That looked lovely.
It puts you on the spot, I think, because you're not, as you're saying, you're not expecting in the lift the person to be doing something or might be just thinking of other things. So you kept it going with the who I am, and you still were persistent when I finished on the phone, which was good, and you gave me your card. Now, sometimes there might not be the opportunity in which to get your card out and all that sort of thing, but there's no reason why you can't say, do you mind if I email you? I appreciate it, so I see you're busy or whatever, or this is your floor, I'll drop you a line. And that's fine. And then you'll email and say,
because you're real, again, I think that it comes down to you want to open a potential line of communication. Your real pitch will come later, because then they're going to vet you. They're going to say, what are your skills? Or, tell me more about yourself. So you just want to be engaging to the point that you can establish the beginnings of the content. So the information is fine, yours is good, that feigned nervousness you had, that was good. And that was very good too, because you were persistent. Did you practice this with her? This was really hello, I like that. That's actually you. It was so you, the whole thing. But you stayed with it, and you weren't aggressive. You didn't say you take the phone and throw it down. But you did say, well, it's clear, by your body language and what you said, you were implying you're clearly busy. You're going to go, but here's my card. Can I contact you in the future? I thought that was good.
Anyone else?
No, I thought it was good as well. And just to follow up on what Felicity said, actually, is when you are walking around the conference, try and have a card with easy access, a business card, easy access, not in the fifth pocket of your
No, that's
bag.
actually, that is a good
Just
point.
have that, because men always reach in their inside pocket. Here you go. Women are like fumbling in their bag.
Good.
Anyone else?
Anybody else want to go? You sure? You guys don't want to go? No one over there?
It's easy.
Ellen?
Come on.
Ellen, you can do this.
Can I give it to her? Because I know what she looks like.
Yes, you can talk.
It would actually be who I would talk to.
Well, then there you go, do it.
But I don't do virology. You remember that, right?
I know, but you were... Okay. All right. Yeah, getting... Hi, Dr. Stokes. My name is Ellie Hall. It's really great to meet you. I work with HCMV, and I'm familiar with your work on mirroring CMV and how it applies with cardiovascular disease, and I think what you work on is really interesting. If at all possible, could I give you my card and get in contact with you later, because I'd love to talk with you more about what you work on.
Don't forget what you're looking for.
I expect to graduate sometime in the next century, so if you're looking for a postdoc anywhere in that range, that would be awesome.
Okay. I think maybe one more sentence on what you worked on would be nice, but I like that you made a link with the CMV. Very good. And don't be. I know you're this like lovely, sweet person, but try not to sound quite so apologetic when you're trying to pitch yourself. And yeah, I like, it's good to have a sense of humour, but you have such a limited time, not in the next century. Have a firm time. And I mentioned Andrew, or sorry, Jeremy. Yeah. Because, you know, try and have something there. Unless he's pissed off the entire senior world, I don't know. Is that why you hid his name?
But you were confident and enthusiastic.
And that goes a long way. So everybody wants to give the polished speech, but really sometimes being not intentionally nervous, but just being, you know, a real person. It's not scripted. It's not a commercial.
And something that a lot of people do when they introduce themselves is they're so used to saying their name, they skate over it and you can't catch it. So make sure you really ensure that the person hears it.
Yeah.
And you didn't find that, but it was just something that I thought of. It's a very typical thing to do.
Yeah.
My name is Laura.
One thing you could do is practice with friends. But you could learn maybe a minute, find out what they do in their job or whatever, and then practice pitching what they do. So imagine that you're saying it to somebody, so Dr. Smith works on this and she's interested in that sort of thing. And then do your pitch for yourself. And there'll be a difference, as Karen said, there's a difference in how you pitch yourself versus how you pitch someone else. Usually, it's human nature to pitch the other person in a very confident fashion. So you're going to be, so this is Dr. Smith, and she's interested in inflammation, she works on stem cells, and she's looking for a postdoc position, whatever, this sort of thing. But when you're introducing yourself, it's, I'm Dr. Gavins, I'm interested in inflammation, and all that sort of thing. So you'll notice a difference. So practice with friends, or practice with the mirror or something like that, and be, as Karen was saying, be very confident, you know, particularly when you say your name, because that might be the only thing the person remembers, you know, and you want to catch the name so that it registers in their thought process, so that if you then email them or contact them in the future, they know who it is. So just have a practice, because it is human nature to undersell yourself, but sell another person or your friends more.
Actually, that's a key point, because PR is not a natural thing for individuals. It's easier for us to sell other people and ideas and ourselves, because it's beat out of us that, well, and science is kind of silly, because you know your ego is what gets you through the dark days, not having grants or not having papers rejected. So if anything, there should be a course on building your ego. I love myself, and damn it, that's okay. I'm serious. I mean, that needs to be, I don't mean to the point of arrogance to the extreme, but I think that's one of the things scientists do. They're introverted, and it's kind of like, well, I want to talk about myself, but you know, I'm really not that great. Yeah, you are. You know, come up and say, yeah, this is who I am, and this is what I'm interested in, and I'm really glad to meet you, and I love your work, and I would love to establish a line of communication with you. And then you can walk out of the elevator and go, phew. I mean, because most times you do this afterwards, it's like, yeah, but you have that 30 seconds where you can be anyone you want. You only have 10 or 30 seconds that time. You can do anything you want 30 seconds, right? Even if you're scared, just do it. What's the worst that's going to happen?
And think about the fact that if you're talking to this person because you want a job, you want to come across as yourself, so you want to be enthusiastic about it. But also, the person's going to be thinking, do I want to employ this person? Are they going to fit in my group? If that's what you're, you know, so it will register somewhere in their mind. So make sure that you do have, as you mentioned before, the eye contact. You know, you don't forget, hi, I'm Dr. Gavins, this sort of thing, because it implies that not only you're nervous, but you might be a bit shifty, you might be a bit untrustworthy, and that's not a good thing. So eye contact's very important. I'm not saying that you stare them out high. It's nice to meet them. That's also.
And the other thing, and one of the things we need to work on in this group, perhaps, is your handshake. I'm telling you, that's one of the most important things you can do. I don't care what you say to me, but if you give me your hand, it's going to, I'm just going to go creepy.
Is this okay to
be thinking about that?
No, it's got to be, and I'm not talking like, that guy back there, he probably has a bone crusher hand. Where the guy's going, man, but it's got to be, hey, we connected. And you have to look the person in the eye. It doesn't mean you stare them down, but you look them in the eye occasionally. Because you've been in a room when somebody's making a pitch and it's like, so, Karen, I'm really interested in your work. It's like, okay, right? So these are things that the words are important, but really your body language, your mannerisms, your eye contact, and making a clean handshake. And make sure it's not one of these things. Make it a handshake.
Is it okay to give your hand for handshake, or you have to wait till he?
I always give my hand
Or she offers.
I
What
always
if it's
do
she?
mine first.
I think in professional environment it's fine, because I know here it was really surprising to me that no one would shake my hand unless I did it first, or guys wouldn't unless I did it
That's
first.
true.
But in a professional environment, I
No,
don't
that's
think you need to.
No, the person who offers their hand, great, but I mean, don't be hesitant to put your hand up. It's the first impression you're going to make, and your handshake is something you need to practice.
That's
We should
nice.
go. That's just one thing you can do. I want to go around, not necessarily today, but see how you guys shake hands. Because I'm telling you right now that we've had visitors come and they meet all the faculty, and meet the students, and we go out and drink about it. And it's like, man, that handshake just sucked. It's the whole thing. There's nothing about the seminars. Like, the wimpiest handshake ever. What was that? So yeah, that's important.
Something that I just thought of, kind of using yours as an example, because it's easier for me. When I mentioned about maybe you could expand just even a sentence on your work on HCMV, is if you have the time, especially as a student going into a postdoc, what techniques, maybe one or two, that you could bring, and what you'd really like to learn, how you think you could grow in their environment, if you have that time, if the conversation is about to go on. So why would you want to look at my lab? Well, I think I'd really like to learn this aspect of this technique, because in the future I'd like to move in that direction. Or it'll complement what I already know, because. So.
Now, one of the things we're not talking about today is we're at the pitch end, but many of you went to my former student seminar, Jared Schneider, and his take-home message was what? Not that he's a goofy guy, no. His take-home message was networking, right? And that's your first pitch to someone is the beginning of that network, because that person knows a ton of people and it goes out from there. And so if you connect with that person and someone down the line goes, I'm really looking for someone, wait a minute, I met someone, this could be perfect. So that's the first real time you're going to network with that person, and then it's going to spread out from there.
And also, if they have already got a good idea of, even if it is a glimmer of what your strengths are and what your background is, then they'll be able to identify you when they hear of someone else looking.
And one other practical thing, because many of us, because I'm not high tech, there's that little thing called Twitter, I think, or something, and Facebook. Be careful what you put on that, seriously, because that will come back and bite you in the ass. I'm not saying don't have fun on it, but don't share pictures and things. It'll really not.
I think if you're at a meeting as well, sometimes maybe you're due to present or you have a poster or something, you could also mention that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's actually a very good point.
Or whatever, why you're presenting for such and such. And
If you have a chance, come by and see the poster. I'm giving a talk, and that's actually very good.
So now you're poster number off.
That's true. I have a poster Tuesday, I think, somewhere. You've got my name. You can-
You could do something really suave, like rip the page out of the program and circle it, but there you go.
That's a good point.
Does that anybody else go? Anybody want to go again?
No.
Well, that was good.
yeah, I think there's some good sort of take-home messages from it, definitely.
That was really good.
So actually what we could do for me more than anyone is just kind of go around the room and you're not pitching to me, but tell me your name and where you work and if you're a postdoctoral student.
I'm John McGreen. I'm in the oral lab in pathology, and I'm a health manager.
Okay, good.
I'm Tijan from Pathology Department in Olive. I'm a postdoc now.
Good.
Me too.
Yeah?
Alex Akshian, research assistant professor in Dr. Mason's lab.
Mike Kordoninko, postdoc in Dr. Stokes' lab.
Natalia Lączkina, I'm working on small imaging facility.
Good.
Casey Jackson, I'm a graduate student in doctoral science lab.
Christian Diekmann, Department of Pediatrics, working with Dr. Chain.
And then I don't know.
I'm Helen Smith. I'm a postdoc in Dr. Gavins lab.
You're too young to be a postdoc.
Flattering.
It's too young to be an assistant.
You're there. I thought you were promoted already.
I'm at LSU Health. I work in geometry criminals lab. I'm a graduate student.
And I'm James Cardelli, and I've been here 28 years. I'll leave it at that. All right, good. What else?
That's it.
We have lunch now or something? Or?
I wish. I spoke to Sandy and she said that maybe sometime in the future.
So I think it's, so this is part of the postdoc